Welcome back to the Vibrant Flow podcast, everyone. I am so thrilled to be discussing our vibrant health as women today with Sena, and she is an expert in all things remineralizing yourself and being a truly nourished woman. So I'm so excited to dive in. She supports women to embrace a nourished, resilient, and radiantly healthy lifestyle. And I'm so curious, what does it mean to be a Remineralizer and a wellness explorer? What does that mean? But first of all, thank you so much for being here, Sina. I mean, it's you're in the Pacific Coast as I understand, and I'm here in Finland, so we're quite far apart, but it's so cool to come together to talk about these important topics. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I love that. Yeah, we're bridging the world, and bringing this message all the way over to Finland is amazing. Thank you for the work that you do. And yeah, a remineralizer, that's kind of my own spin. I'm by training, I'm a mineral nutritional balancing practitioner. So that's really, it's about mineral balancing, but I don't know, I just kind of came up with remineralizing because it felt to me like a way of, I don't know, visually understanding, maybe like getting minerals back into your body. And then the Wellness Explorer part of my title just came from my own health journey of exploring, like not being well, having severe histamine intolerance, having, severe PMS issues, hormonal issues, crazy fatigue, just being like really sensitive and not able, I was not resilient. I didn't have much capacity. For a few years there. And so I've always been kind of not into the conventional medical system. I just knew that they wouldn't really be able to help me. And so I just was exploring. I was exploring many different approaches to health. I did keto, I did genetic testing. I fasted, I've done plant medicine, I've done more spiritual healing approaches, microdosing, the list goes on. And then I found the minerals and started to understand that the root of our health depends on minerals. Like our cells, our mitochondria, like all the enzymatic functions in the body require a balance of minerals and vitamins to function. And so once I kind of discovered that, I was like, oh my gosh. And I just went full into the world of minerals.
Wow, that's so cool. There's a lot. I've seen your story, I heard your story on another podcast interview, and it was so interesting how you've gone through all kinds of, like, you tried out everything, right? Like you said, you've been vegetarian, as I understand it, and you've tried all the things like the plant medicine and the microdosing and all of those things.
Yeah.
And then finally, I think you found a pro-metabolic lifestyle, and we're going to go into that, like what is that really. But before we go, I actually wanted to sort of highlight what you do and what this discussion is about by bringing up one of your stories from Instagram. This is something that I thought I wanted to share with my listeners, is that in this my story portion of your Instagram stories, you tell like what were the changes that you experienced in your life when you started to truly heal and become a well-nourished woman. And I think this is just such a great list. So I just wanted to share it with my listeners, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
So here you write that without a doctor over the last 9 months, well, this was last March, but over the last year and something, I have learned how to support my adrenals, thyroid, cardiovascular, and hormone system with minerals, heal my gut, minimize my food intolerances, minimize inflammation flares, balance my blood sugar by balancing my macros, track my metabolic health with pulse and basal body temperature, properly nourish my body for sustained energy throughout the day, heal my body so I can do metabolically supportive strength training, and reclaim the joy of being alive. I mean, if that doesn't sell you, I don't know what will. So this is just like, because I want to highlight this because I want this conversation to be a reminder that this is available for everyone. that women don't need to live lives of constant struggle and being completely just malnourished, which is the way that most of us are conditioned to be.
Right.
So let's start there. What does it mean to be a well-nourished woman? Like being a radiantly nourished woman, what are we even talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So one way to think about it is thinking about metabolism. So you brought up the pro-metabolic lifestyle kind of dietary approach, and pro-metabolic just means pro our metabolism. Our metabolism is like think of it as like the engine of our body. How efficiently is our body's engine running? How is it utilizing fuel, like our food, our inputs, and how is it eliminating toxins, exhausting the gas, or exhausting waste, basically. And so, so like the root cause, in my opinion, of so many, really all of our health issues, mental, emotional as well, is a metabolism that's not functioning properly. So when our metabolic, rate starts to lower or become out of balance, then our body is less efficient in doing what it needs to do. It will start shutting down, different like non-important or like less important systems in order to keep us surviving. Mm-hmm. So it will stop us, like we won't detox as well because we just need energy to, live and get up and do things. And so as that happens over time, then we start to develop symptoms. So from a metabolism perspective, what does a well-nourished woman look like or feel like? We look at just kind of basic body markers, like biomarkers. So how well are we sleeping? How well are we digesting? Are we able to eat well? Do we have an appetite? Are we always cold? Are our hands and feet always cold? Are we anxious? How's our mental health? Do we have sustained energy throughout the day? How's our libido? Do we feel like juicy and, interested in like sexual pleasure? How's our hair? How are our nails? What's our tongue look like? If you want to go into like more traditional Chinese medicine approaches, those are kind of the basics, but it's like, when you just like, that's kind of the foundations of being a well-functioning human. And unfortunately, just in like modern society, we've just kind of gotten far from that. So many of us, me included, did not have any or most of those, just basics of being a balanced human. Like most of those are not the normal experience for women. So that's one, you can kind of take a little intake for yourself, right? Of just like, like looking at all these different categories, how is my metabolism doing?
Yeah, exactly. That's so good. And what do you think are the most common obstacles that women face today? The women that you work with, as well as in your own journey, what are the biggest things that, in terms of like what we consume, but also our lifestyle, like how we relate to ourselves and all of that. So what are some of the things that come up?
Yeah, it's, there's so many, honestly. I mean, we are kind of like running an uphill battle. I will say, it's not, many of us have been just conditioned into this where we didn't really have a choice point of like, do I get to choose to live a life of burnout or a connected, radiantly nourished life? Like we don't get that. So for anyone out there that's like in this burnout place, like just, it's okay. I think we've all been there. But yeah, I think a big one is just not eating enough, and the kind of this programming of like, the less we eat, the better. Obviously there's a whole lot of body image baked into that, but just eating more. Like women should be eating at least 2,000 calories, usually more depending on body type, 100 grams of protein. If most women who track their protein, like they're so shocked by how little protein they're actually consuming. Eat breakfast, like food. There's a whole, like, I think the world would change substantially if women ate breakfast within an hour of eating up, ate a protein-dense, nutrient-dense breakfast, ate enough calories throughout the day, didn't let themselves get hangry, because every time we get hangry, our stress hormones kick on, and that like contributes to a pattern of burnout over time.
Yeah.
So yeah, the food is like a huge one. I mean, there's obviously many lifestyle things, but that's like something that people can start with right now.
I saw that you mentioned somewhere, probably on your Instagram, like this new way of living that focuses on slowing down. What does that look like and feel like for you?
Oh, yeah. So I was thinking about the slow food movement. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but there's this whole movement of like just bringing awareness to the kind of ancient or more traditional ways of growing food, having farm animals, making your own food from scratch. The slower approach, instead of an instant pot, which like, I mean, I have one, but like, what if we did like a 72-hour cook of a broth or a stew, or making sourdough, or, just that's a whole thing. Anyways, so I was thinking about the slow food movement, and I was like, honestly, I feel like this is kind of focusing on health specifically, but the slow health, I want there to be a slow health movement, especially for women, because so many women come to me and they're like, I do a one-time consultation, and then they're like, want to be better in 2 months. And it's like, that's not realistic. Like, if we want to really rebalance your minerals, that like, how many years have you had symptoms? How many years have you lived a lifestyle where that's not supporting your feminine physiology? What about your mom and your grandmother, and how did they live, and what did you receive from them? So like, this isn't a quick fix, but as we have a slower approach to life, we actually start to we get to know ourselves better. In this modern society, like, women are not supported to slow down during our menstrual cycle, or take a day off if we feel overwhelmed. Like, we have gotten into this like reversed system of women have to do everything, and a mother, and all the things on top of that. And that's not how I don't believe women's physiologies are designed for that. It's not an easy thing for everyone. I'm an entrepreneur, so I set my own schedule. I couldn't do that any other way. I mean, I worked in corporate, burned out. But, and I know not everyone can set their own schedule, but just things like sleeping in, not forcing yourself to get up at 6 a.m., 5 a.m., not pushing yourself more than you need to. Like a 6 a.m. workout on an empty stomach and then coffee, like, that is a recipe for disaster. Like, we need to allow ourselves to rest, take the time to slow down and cook our meals and eat 3 meals a day. That alone is hard. I mean, I still struggle with that. Like, just it's like there's this, instead of this like it's like a visual I'm seeing of kind of like a tornado of energy outward, where we're just like, women, we're so attuned to everything around us. That's what makes us so magical. We feel everyone. We want everyone to be happy. We're caretakers. We're of service. But that tornado, the diameter of that tornado, it needs to shrink so that you are at the center of the tornado, and you have boundaries for yourself of like, I know I committed to working out 5 days this week. I don't feel like my body doesn't want to do that. I want to curl at home with a book. I want to go for a long walk. Connecting with nature is a huge one. Like reading a book or fiction. That's a big one. I encourage women to read fiction. We don't like the self-development. I get it. Of course, there's a time and place for that, but like, let yourself get into the liminal, let yourself get into the imaginary, play music. What did you like to do as a child? Do you like to do pottery? Do you like to dance? There's so many ways that I feel like we have been taught to deprioritize that stuff, but that's actually what gives women their juice, it fills our cups.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all of that, so good. I can echo especially like reading fiction. It's definitely one of my favorite pastime ways of spending my pastime. Absolutely. I think what women, if let's say that they're dealing with something like PCOS or PMS, PMDD, adrenal fatigue, and I keep hearing until this day from friends and from whoever, from experts, that you cannot heal these things without medication. Like you just, if you have adrenal fatigue, you need medication. Like that's the only way. And that's like literally women are being told by medical experts that this is not something that you can fix with a healthy lifestyle. And it's just, pushed aside. And you're correct to say that it's not about fixing something quickly. And when women go to doctors, and I'm not blaming anyone who's doing that. We're all doing our best, trying to find solutions. I've been there. We've all been there. But usually the sort of expectation is, hey, now I'm getting this doctor's consultation. They're an expert. And now this thing should be resolved within weeks. And that's just not how it works. Like if you have a deeper issues like that, it's like you've practiced this way of being, like this is a deeper thing that just one simple habit or what you ate yesterday or whatever. Like it's just so much more than that. And nobody is deprived of medication. So that's not the cause, and it cannot be the cause. So what would you say to the woman who is like, let's say they're coming off birth control because they've understood that is not great for their system. It's just sabotaging so many of our vital functions and just, cutting off that connection with our brain and our ovaries, right? And or someone is dealing with PCOS, someone is dealing with awful PMS or adrenal fatigue, whatever it is, all of these things that usually relate to our stressful go masculine lifestyle. So if a woman comes to you and they're like, fix me, what do you tell them?
Well, I would tell them that it's going to take time, first of all. And I would say, after I usually do like a discovery call with women to just get a check, like, is this woman going to expect me to fix her, or is she willing to soften into her body, take a deep breath, and roll up her sleeves to make some changes over time that will shift her entire trajectory of her life? So if someone really has that fix it mentality, we're probably not a good fit, and we might not work together. But I mean, at the end of the day, like first off, what comes up for me when I'm just like listening to you talk about this is how critical it is, no matter what symptoms you have, how critical it is for women to reconnect with the immense multidimensional power of our bodies. Like our bodies build human babies and we birth them. Like we are creators, like literally we create life in these vessels. And we have gotten so far from trusting that our body can heal. Like our bodies always, like just from an evolutionary perspective, our body humans want to be healthy because that's like evolutionarily, we want to further the human race and be healthy and strong. And so our bodies are always moving towards homeostasis. They're always trying to move towards homeostasis. And symptoms are just your body speaking. They're like an alarm bell. Like we all have different symptoms, but at the end of underneath all that, it's just communicating that there's something off in your body. Like something is not working. So we can run around outside of ourselves and spend a bunch of money and time talking to people that are not in our bodies. And of course, like there are times and places, like I conventional medicine can be very helpful for like health crises and like all sorts of things, but from like more of a preventative place, and many of these like more mysterious, like adrenal fatigue. Like what is that? Like PMS. It's like, that could be like, there are things that are just like, people are just like, I'm fatigued. And when you go to a doctor for that, like that, it's so vague that it's hard to get anything specific. But we're, focusing on like asking someone outside of our lived experience. They don't know what we eat. They don't know how we live our life. They don't know what stressors and trauma we have. They don't ask any of that. When I talk to clients, like, I have a very extensive intake form that I'm trying to get like in there. Like, what is the trauma that you're carrying? Like, what was your mother's experience when she was pregnant with you? What stressors was she going through? Like, that's the level of, holistic approach that health truly is. And but all that aside, like, women have to reorient to the wisdom of their own bodies and trust that their body is intelligent and wants them to be well. Their body wants to be well. And like, that's like a huge, if we don't believe that we can heal ourselves, we're not going to heal ourselves. If we believe that this pill is going to make us better, we're going to put all our trust in that pill, and it's probably going to make us worse at some point in the future. And then we're going to, like, it comes down to like this level of, there's a strength. I think there's like a strength inherently in women, to be able to birth a child. We are given immense strength. And I think we've just been kind of disconnected from that for a variety of reasons.
Oh, yeah. And we grow up in a world where nobody is speaking life into this innate strength that we have. Yes. What it is to be a radiant, vibrant woman.
Yes.
That's not a topic that, like, even at homes, like, it's something that so many women, they didn't discuss these things with their mothers. And because our mothers, perhaps they didn't know any better. And we're all doing our best and trying our best with everything. I want to know more about pro-metabolic lifestyle. What is that? Like, I can just hear my listeners be like, well, yeah, but what is that? Like, how do I get on it?
Yeah, totally. So I will say, like, I kind of have my own variation of it. For anyone that like wants to go deep in, Dr. Ray Peat is kind of the like thought leader, the founder, I guess. It's a very loose, it's not like a movement. It's just, this Dr. Ray Peat did a ton of research on metabolism. And through that research came all of these ways to approach your food and your lifestyle. In a nutshell, what I focus on with women is an animal-based diet. So what supports our metabolism is eating enough nutrients, and animal foods are the most nutrient dense foods we can access. Like, dairy is a superfood. They're all superfoods if you want to look at it, but so animal-based, like nutrient dense, animal-based diet, enough protein, eating within an hour of waking up, eating every 3 to 4 hours, like not getting hangry, making sure you just like make sure it's a whole lifestyle shift, like you have to pack your lunch, you have to bring snacks with you. Like, I travel with salami and raw goat cheese now because that's like, I need a snack. And like, I would never do that in the past, and I'd be hangry and I'd be running around town on stress hormones, and it would just be not good for anyone. Prioritizing sleep, going to bed by 10 p.m., having like a bedtime routine, walking a lot. There's actually a de-emphasis both in a pro-metabolic lens and mineral nutritional balancing lens. I really don't recommend cardio for women, like intensive cardio. Like, long walks, awesome. Something like a Pilates reformer class where you're not like sweating a ton. Like, obviously exercise is important. I really like strength training for women. That is very pro-metabolic. Like, one of the best things you can do from an exercise perspective is build muscle. But yeah, like high intensity interval training, intensive cardio, like that's actually really stressful for the body. That tends to not actually support women's metabolism, especially if we're already depleted.
Mm-hmm.
Those are kind of like the main things.
I just I'm reminded of, like, it wasn't that long ago, actually. I really hopped on the intermittent fasting and cardio, like getting that intense workout. Like I still like to work out in the morning, but I
Yeah.
try to eat something before that. But it just energizes me. I love Pilates and all of that. But it would be like eating nothing and then doing like a HIIT workout. And then I eat for the first time around 12 p.m., 1 p.m. Like that would be my like breakfast time.
Yeah.
And I thought like I had a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Like a ton of energy, and I didn't know that that was cortisol. That was just like my body being super stressed out, but I was just like, but I have all this energy. It works. It feels great.
It feels good. That's the thing. It feels good. I did that when I was keto for 3 months because I was struggling so much. I didn't know what to do. I was having so much inflammation issues and histamine issues. And so I did keto and I felt pretty awesome. Like I was like, cool. I'm like, I didn't know that I was like literally peeing out like all of my electrolytes and running on stress hormones and like, you know, how important like carbs and glucose is for our body's function, that when we go into those fasted states, that's actually a survival mechanism. Like that's not supposed to be a lifestyle. That is like, we are living in the bush and we are starving and we need to, like, our men need to go hunt something and we don't have food. So we kick into ketosis, but that's not like, it's just not meant to be a way of life, especially for women, especially in this modern age where we're already inundated with so much stress. So yeah, that's the thing. That's a hard one for some women because some women literally depend on that exercise to feel good. Like that's the only time they feel good
Right.
in their day. You know, they're like, if I don't like do my morning cardio, then like I can't really function. And it's like, well, maybe rest is the answer. Like maybe you need to slow down, you know?
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable.
It's
When you're
super
in that
uncomfortable.
like really acute stress cortisol addiction. I mean, we're all addicted to cortisol. That's
Absolutely.
just the thing. Like it's addictive, right? And our
Well, and
lifestyle.
it serves a purpose. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
we need cortisol. Like
Yeah.
we do need it throughout the
Absolutely.
day, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely. But especially if it's like constant, like your nervous system is constantly like going this
Mm-hmm.
raggedy, like it's supposed to flow naturally.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a natural flow of like sympathetic and parasympathetic both
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
working, but if it's just constantly like you're peaking and you're in this hyper vigilant state, which is
Yeah.
so normal these days, my
Mm-hmm.
goodness.
Mm-hmm.
uh
Yeah,
so
actually, can I say something really about that
yeah,
really quick?
go ahead, go ahead.
Just because you brought up the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. So it's actually really fascinating. There is a pattern on hair tissue mineral analysis, which is a lab that I run where you can see the levels of minerals and metals in your hair that are
Right.
excreted into your hair. And there's a pattern called sympathetic dominance that I see much more often in women. I also see it in mothers, usually like single mothers. But it's way more common in women than men. And it's essentially when our potassium is below a certain point, when our potassium gets so low that we are in a constant state of fight or flight. And we also call it a pusher pattern. And one of the first reasons that we can get into that, there's many reasons, but one of the first reasons that will put us into sympathetic dominance is over exercising or too much physical activity.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so it's an interesting kind of phenomenon of women running in chronic fight or flight.
Yeah. And then on top of that, they're running in gyms without any fuel in their
Exactly.
bodies.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Right.
yeah. Round and round
Exactly.
we go.
So what is it then to remineralize? Like when you help others like remineralize themselves,
Yeah.
what are we talking about?
Totally. Yeah. So I work with that lab, like I mentioned. So I do these hair tissue mineral analysis consultations, and we look at lifestyle, we look at diet, and we look at your mineral levels, and we also look at levels of heavy metals showing in the hair. So it gives us basically like, where are you at from a like like how nourished are you, or how depleted are you, and then how potentially toxic are you. And at this time in the world, like we all have heavy metal toxicity. It's everywhere. And that's okay. Like our bodies, again, are very intelligent. They're able to detoxify when they have enough energy and fuel and the resources to do so. So what we do based on the hair test data is I prescribe a protocol. Not prescribe. I put together a protocol that has various different minerals, different vitamins, supplements that are targeted on specific patterns on someone's HTMA test. So we can see on a hair test how well are your adrenals functioning, how well is your thyroid functioning, how is your blood glucose regulation, how is your liver functioning, what is your overall cellular vitality level. That's the sodium to potassium ratio. So that's a really important one. And then based on all of those markers, I will say like, oh, okay, if you have a low sodium to potassium ratio, we need to bring that up, because when we have a low ratio there, that means like immunity is compromised. There's liver, kidney, cardiovascular stress in the system. It's like one of the most important ratios. So there's a specific supplement formula that I will recommend just for that. So it's a mix of supplements. And then we have lifestyle, which is usually like gentle detoxification practices. So I'm not about like cleanse, like kill the intruder. Like I'm just trying to help your body do its natural processes that it wants to do. Like the body should sweat. The body should be eliminating toxins through our bowel movements, through our urine. And so things like dry brushing and castor oil packs and sometimes coffee enemas and infrared saunas, things that just help our body naturally cleanse. And then the nutrition piece is a big one too. And so this approach, especially with the supplementation, it's meant to be 3 months of the supplements. And then we retest and see how your body is actually responding to this protocol. And that's something that I think is really unique about this approach, because we can actually, it's not just like, here, take these supplements, check back in with me at some point in the future. It's like these supplements work. And if you're a slow metabolizer or slow oxidizer, I'm going to give you something to gently speed you up. And I don't want you to get too fast. Like it works. So that's why we pause, we check in, and we say, hey, what do we need to change here? And over time, if someone is able to commit to the program, we'll start to see heavy metals release. And that's kind of is like underlying key part of mineral balancing, is that if we like heavy metals are a cause of many of our symptoms in our body. And so mineral balancing is also heavy metal eliminating.
Right.
And so, yeah, over time, as we rebalance the minerals, the metals start to release from the body. And then that's like root cause sustained healing.
Exactly. Right. In terms of like minerals, if someone is thinking, well, yeah, wait a second, minerals. So what are the minerals that I should be, thinking of, aware of when I'm choosing my diet, what I eat? Like, what am I looking for?
Yeah. So on the test, we look at the first 4 macro minerals, we call them, the kind of primary ones. We spend like 80% of the test on just these 4, is calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. Those are like the key ones. Those will inform what's happening with the rest of the trace minerals. So we also look at iron, copper, zinc, manganese, chromium, selenium, phosphorus, and then heavy metals. Those are kind of the main ones. But yeah, if anyone wants to just look at there's an app called Chronometer that's like a food tracking app, and it'll actually show you, if you just track what you're eating, it'll show you like how much calcium, how much phosphorus, how much of these minerals are you getting in your diet, which is just an interesting place to start for anyone that's curious.
What was that called again, the app?
Chronometer. It's CHRONO, chronometer.
Right. Okay, cool. Never heard of that. Let's just write it down. Cool. And in terms of what, like, if someone, let's say that a woman comes to you and they are, let's say what they're consuming on a daily basis is they start their morning off with coffee. First thing in the morning, coffee, like, the basic thing on an empty stomach. And then they'll have cereal or some toast, maybe put some cheese on it, maybe, I don't know, a juice, like not that there's anything wrong with juice, but the combination of that, and then or their milk like is probably oat milk or something else. And then they go off to work, and then their lunch is salad, like the basic salad with maybe chicken, some chicken, and then some basic salad ingredients, and that's the lunch. Yeah. More coffee, and then maybe a smoothie, like a green smoothie, because they're super healthy. and then I don't know, a few nuts or a cereal bar as a snack. And then they come home, their dinner, if they have any, is, I don't know, a frozen pizza or I don't know, something like that. So, like, how would you start to unpack that, a daily, what I eat in a day?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great one. Thank you. That was a perfect example. I feel like you were going back through like my past self. There's a few key things. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but like just to keep it super simple, more cooking, like actually cooking whole foods, less processed foods, less eating out if possible. Coffee after breakfast, after a protein dense breakfast, and coffee can have, a healthy fat and a little sweetener in it. But black coffee on an empty stomach is a disaster, a recipe for disaster over time. Breakfast, we need way more protein. That breakfast is literally just carbs. It's literally just like toast and juice. We need protein and fat, like in substantial amounts. So that's the other thing that, like, I really am trying to encourage women to enjoy their food, because that is what makes it sustainable. So like, even in your example, it's like, okay, they basically ate like bird food all morning and lunch, and then they're eating like a frozen pizza at dinner, probably because they're like starving and they want something dense. Like their body's like, I need like something dense. So what if we weren't starving? And that's why I'm such a fan of animal-based diets, because like everyone wants butter. Like pretty much everyone in the world that I've ever talked to like loves butter, either secretly or not so secretly.
Yes.
There's a reason for that. Like butter is packed with minerals. It's got a ton of vitamin K in it. It's got all these things in it that we're not getting from any sort of like plant-based fat substitute. Yeah. Oat milk is a freaking glucose bomb. I went on a campaign. I don't know if you saw this. I was going on a rant on Instagram about how any plant-based quote unquote milk needs to be called liquid. It's not milk. Oat milk is oat liquid. Like coconut milk has some fat in it. I'll call it coconut milk. But like all the other, like cashew milk, blah, 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 all of that. No, it's literally just liquefied cashews. There's no fat in there. I mean, there's some, but it's like, we don't get the retinol that we get from milk. We don't get the enzymes that we get from actual animal milk. So like, I feel like it's actually very confusing to people, to women, when they're like, oh, cool, I'm just going to like substitute with some hemp milk. It's like, okay, use that in moderation for whatever, some like you can use some of it, but it's actually usually nut milk and seed milk is rancid. Like nuts and seeds are rancid a lot of the time. They're high in polyunsaturated fats, which like those, we don't have to be scared of those. But if we're consuming primarily that versus healthy saturated fats like butter, cow dairy, goat dairy, yogurt, like anything any animal-based fat is going to be a saturated fat that has retinol and all these other enzymes in it that we don't get from these plant-based oat liquid things. So anyways, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but like I'm trying to like deconstruct this like restrictive diet culture, because the reality is like many women think they're being healthy. Like they're like, ooh, this green smoothie is healthy. There's actually nothing in that smoothie really. It's like, I mean, okay, there's good hydration. Like I'm not anti-vegetables. Like there's good hydration as long as it's organic. If you're eating non-organic, like green smoothies, then you're getting a bunch of pesticides. But there are benefits to those things, but you're not getting like, we burn carbs really quickly. We use carbs really quickly. Protein and fat help us sustain our blood sugar. They take longer for our body to digest. They're like more complex. So from a blood glucose regulation, that's why I'm like, we have to get protein in with every meal. We can't have naked carbs. We can't have like just chips or just toast or just juice. Like we need some sort of protein. You can also do fat, but like I lean on the protein. And we think that we're doing this like quote unquote healthy diet because we want to like be in shape. And if we eat a lot, we're going to gain weight. Yeah. If we eat a lot and gain weight, that's a sign of like a dysfunctioning metabolism. Our body, again, needs fuel. The more, like when people start actually eating more food, they're like, oh my God, I'm waking up and I'm really hungry. And I'm like, welcome to your body. Like that is how we should. Yes, that's a good thing. You should have a strong appetite. Your body, when you start to actually feed it and it is expecting food, you'll start to get more hungry. Your body will start to be able to digest things more and utilize things more and absorb these minerals and nutrients rather than kind of being overloaded and like storing it as fat. And when we're not eating enough, that is when our body will actually store around our organs, which is our like belly area. There's also a whole cortisol connection there too. When we have cortisol imbalance, we'll also store around our belly area. But that's because our body is so stressed that it's like planning for survival. It's like, okay, I don't know when I'm going to get food next. So I need to store this energy in the most critical place on our bodies so that I can access it next time I'm starving. Yeah. So it's like we just have to flip the whole thing on its head. And it's like by eating more, you will actually be able to build muscle. You will have energy. You'll have energy to, strength train and go on longer walks and lift your kids and engage with your life. But when we're like depriving ourselves, that's not helping anyone, and that's not helping us. And if we are like skinny because of it, at what cost, right? Like, it's not sustainable. And so I'm like, if you want steak and eggs and hash browns for breakfast, like cook it yourself, cook it with good quality ingredients, and you're good. Like that's not unhealthy. It's unhealthy if we're going out to a restaurant and it's got all this crap in it, but like that's what many of our ancestors ate forever, for a long time. It's not this like new. It's like how could that be so bad for us?
Yeah, I think I've observed that at least here, women are still very much, and everyone, not just women, but we are still being warned about cholesterol. Like it's so bad. Oh, yeah. It's like it, and for so many people, it is a red flag. Like cholesterol, no, you gotta cut it out, and you gotta get the margarine, and you gotta get the, seed oil based, whatever oil solution that you're using or spreading on your toast. Yeah. At least here in Finland, like seed oils, like canola oil is still like the holy grail because it has omega-3s, and that's like bombarded all over. Like canola is so good for you, and don't eat butter and get off the butter. Like I'm currently pregnant, 6 months pregnant, and thank you. And my sort of like my nurse, like the prenatal nurse that I go to. Great, love her in so many ways, but she's just, a product of her system. And she was like, in the beginning, like, you should stop eating butter and, get on the margarine and get on these things, stop, don't eat saturated fat, you should not eat that. And
No.
yeah, so it's very much still in the system.
Yeah.
Very much. And the fear of cholesterol is very much real. And
Yeah.
that's why I think also with all the fad milks that I also used to consume,
Yeah.
and oat milk definitely like broke my skin, like made my skin break out, because it's just, glucose to
Yeah.
add starch. It's starch juice, you could say. And what was I saying? Yeah, anyway, I think women are drinking those milks also because, there's less fat in it,
Totally.
and it's less calories. And I was looking at like unsweetened almond milk. Yeah, there's only 16 calories per 100 milligrams or whatever. And just like, this is great. This is a great deal. And, so what would you say to that?
God, I mean, first of all, just that the last little piece is so fascinating because I'm like, why? Okay, when we were like hunter gatherers, they are looking for the most calorically dense possible thing to eat. And somehow now we are glamorizing and glorifying the less calories something has in a food. Like that is, we need like it's just so backwards to me. And it's so fascinating how we've just gotten so disconnected from this. Cause it's like, we need calories, like calories is the energy, it's the fuel source for our bodies. So how did we get to this place? Anyways, that's just one little piece, but,
Yes.
yeah, that is, I've seen some pretty bananas recommendations from doctors as well. And it's really intense to hear that that's the recommendation coming for a pregnant woman, like from the system. I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, for anyone listening, Weston A. Price Foundation is a great resource. Sally Fallon has a it's like nutrition for pregnancy book. The title's a little different, but she is also the author of Nourishing Traditions, which is like one of the Holy Grail cookbooks that I recommend everyone has. It's also like kind of an educational resource. It's basically giving traditional cooking methods for all sorts of different foods.
Right. What was it? Sally who?
Sally Fallon, Fallon. She's part of the Weston A. Price Foundation, and her book about like nutrition for pregnancy is amazing. It's not just pregnancy. It's like it goes through different ages after the child is born and postpartum care and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I don't even know where to start. I think, the cholesterol piece. So we need cholesterol. Our body will create cholesterol and we're not getting enough because cholesterol is key for the conversion of our sex hormones. Yeah. So like, again, this is one of those, we're chasing the symptom kind of, and not looking at the deeper layer of like, okay, if someone has high cholesterol, to me, I'm like, what's going on with their thyroid? Mm-hmm. What's going on with the conversion of their hormones? Right. And if that's not working properly, why is that not working properly? It doesn't mean we need to cut butter from that's a weird, that's not getting to the root of the issue. I mean, margarine, canola oil, those things are so heavily processed. Like for anyone that's into canola oil, just YouTube a video of how canola oil is processed. Like these oils came about because we had excess supplies from the war. Like we had excess like ingredients and things that they created for, I can't remember. I feel like canola oil was like a lubricant for some sort of machinery or something.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So it's like, again, why don't we just like, I'm just a fan of like simplifying, looking at how our ancestors lived and sticking with that. If I can go to my friend's farm, get milk, make my own butter, that feels way healthier to me than some crazy mechanical industrial process. Not to mention the amount of heavy metals going into these things in the processing. I mean, like, we can go deep there, but yeah, you can get omega-3s and omega-6s from plenty of things. Eat some sardines, eat some cod liver oil. Like, we don't have to outsource all of our cooking to some sort of processed approach to be healthy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is one of the key things, is that everything that's now marketed as healthy is super processed. Like from
Yeah.
the quote unquote milks, vegan milks,
Mm-hmm.
to a lot of like vegan options that are like vegan meat,
Oh,
vegan
God.
butter. Like all of
Mm.
these are like like at least here they're getting more popular because
Mm-hmm.
it's like the like people are thinking, at least where I am, it's like the thinking about the climate and thinking about nature, and that's
Mm.
all great. But is this the answer, that we are deprived, that we get vegan butter that has a list of ingredients that's this long,
Mm-hmm.
and or vegan meat that is just filled with something that I don't even know what it is. And
And think about I mean, we want to talk about climate, like the industrial processing plants for those processed foods. I mean, that the energy usage to create all of those weird chemical based ingredients, like, I wholeheartedly disagree with the climate conversation around cattle being the cause.
mm,
Like, I think it is, I think it's a total agenda, honestly, because many of the people spouting that message are flying their private jets to climate conferences to talk about the carbon emissions. Like, climate is it's a much bigger conversation than just carbon. And imagine if let's just say we were all vegan,
mm,
and then we don't have animals. We don't have, animal agriculture. That is so disconnected from the ecology of the earth, really. We, in order to farm in a regenerative way, like in order to grow plant foods, we need animals. We need cows and chickens and goats and sheep. And I'm not an expert in this, but I have many friends who are, and I've been around, people that are doing watershed restoration and rebuilding beaver habitat and growing on regenerative farms. And the whole, like, I'm vegan for the planet, like, I understand, like, it's a hard time on the planet, and I understand people are trying to do what is right. They're trying to do something about a problem that's really confusing and scary and hard. But to me, it feels like the most disconnected from the earth that we could be, to try and deplete ourselves, or to try and, like, save the earth by disconnecting ourselves from the earth.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what if we what if we started a little chicken farm in our backyard? What if we learned how to actually slaughter and process a chicken, and the primal depth of that experience of life and death that is inherently part of being a human
Mm,
being on this planet? Like, that to me is more like I'm getting intimate with the earth and with nature, versus, like, I'm just gonna, like, eat processed food stuff and, like, disconnect entirely from the whole ecosystem.
mm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of highlighting the sort of the whole disconnect in the argument itself. Because now, like, here in the university, and it's like being highlighted and glorified how innovative and cool it is that we're creating food in a lab,
Mm.
and how that is going to save the planet. And yeah, because the meat, like how meat is produced, and I definitely can see like the conventional mass
Yeah.
production
Terrible.
is
Awful.
awful.
Yeah. Like, I'm
And
definitely
that's
not
not what
promoting
we're
that.
talking about here.
No. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So it's like going from one extreme to another,
Mm-hmm.
and neither is bringing the solution. And
Yeah.
people are more like disembodied, more disconnected than ever.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I hear from women all the time that used to be vegan and now they're like animal based and they've never felt better. Their nervous systems are regulated. They feel alive again. They feel like a libido again. They're like, I want to be a mother, or like, I just had like 3 kids, or like, I mean, there's something inherently I feel like it is an important part of like tapping into our femininity. Honestly,
Yes. Yes.
we need those saturated fats. We don't get retinol, which is vitamin A. We don't get retinol from any plant foods. You can get it from carrots, but it's a 12-step conversion process from beta carotene to vitamin A, like from beta carotene to retinol, which is vitamin A. So it's like, yeah, there are many reasons why I think we're getting looped into this more plant-based approach. And again, I think people genuinely feel like they're doing something good.
Yeah.
But I also have to say, like, okay, we give 4 pounds of minerals to our babies as women. So what happens if you're vegan and you have a baby and then you have another baby and then you have another baby? It's pretty common for the younger siblings to have more health issues just in general. And then what happens to their children? Where are the building blocks coming for these kids? Like, we're already depleted and deficient because our soils are depleted because of how we've been caring for the earth.
Yeah.
So to deplete ourselves even more, it's just like there's this plea of like, women, please nourish yourselves. Like, it's not even just about you.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. That's so true. Like it's taking in that extra layer of responsibility and legacy.
Yes.
What am I leaving behind? Like what kind of a life am I building? Like what are the building blocks that I'm giving? And I'm just, hyper aware of this right now, of course, because I'm pregnant and I'm like constantly thinking like, what should I be eating? And I notice that sometimes I need to take a step back and just slow down and not go into the sort of rabbit hole of I need to optimize everything.
No.
And then I'm like hyper alert because I need to optimize myself. And so that's just also not the answer or solution here at all. But yeah, I mean, I've seen like some of the arguments, the solution that the sort of climate environment side of the conversation offers is like, stop having kids. They're bad for the planet. I mean, literally, quite literally, it's just the thing, right? I mean, I've seen a lot of like people like, I'm not gonna get kids because it's like it's not an ethical choice to do or to make.
What like what kind of like, I'm just like thinking ahead. I'm like, okay, cool. So we're all vegan. We don't have any more kids. What's life like in the future? Like that doesn't feel like living to me. That doesn't feel like, like the natural evolution of humans doesn't happen. We become over technologized and over industrialized even more than we already are. And then essentially the human species stops. And that's some people's, approach, but yeah, that's not a life that I want to live in.
Yeah, me neither. What would be some of the final parting words that you would want to impart for the woman who is listening and just wants to be that well-nourished, vibrant woman? what are some of the simplest things that she could do today to make a difference in how she feels?
I would say, number one, that you're worthy of slowing down and you're worthy of feeling nourished. And by you reclaiming your life and your frequency and your energy, it might be challenging, right? Especially if people around you are not used to it. But by you doing that over time, you will have sustained overflowing energy to be of service to your family and your community. And I think that is really like the feminine's gifts, you know, in full expression. So you're worthy of having a full cup. I would, I don't know, look at where you can take things off your plate, look at where you can, you know, give yourself a self-care thing every single day, a bath, a sauna, a meditation, some sort of embodiment practice, and look at like, what are you doing to bring yourself joy?
Yeah.
Like what art do you want to create? What book do you want to read or write, or, you know, like just give yourself you, like give yourself you.
I love it. And eat that protein-packed
And eat
breakfast.
That protein. Yes.
Yes. What would be a great breakfast, by the way? If someone is just wondering, like, I don't know. I've always been eating like toast or cereal or porridge.
Right.
What do I eat?
I mean, my like go-to is potatoes, some sort of breakfast sausage and eggs with, I'll mix in various vegetables, like cooked vegetables. But just like it's kind of like a standard American breakfast, you know, but it's really good quality. And, you know, you can cook that in batches. You can make like frittatas. I personally, the way that I've found when I was needing to learn how to nourish myself, because I didn't really know how, the easiest way for me to get close to 100 grams of protein per day was to have meat at every meal. And that's, you know, for some people that's like, whoa, that's a big shift. So do what you can, but like things like Greek yogurt, super high in protein, cottage cheese, you can put collagen in your coffee. Again, after breakfast though, not even like with breakfast. Like I like to like do it after, like make it a special separate thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I could go on, but those are just some quick breakfast tips.
Yeah, exactly. Natural foods, like that's really simple. Like the ingredients are simple. Yeah.
Super simple. Yeah, you just have to cook. And that can be a barrier for people, which I understand, but meal prep, you know, like prepare in batches. There's so many, it's totally doable. And you will actually feel better. That's the other thing I've heard from clients is like, as they start to remineralize and replenish, they're like, oh, I actually really enjoy cooking. Like it was so stressful before because they didn't have the energy to do it. Yeah. But now once they're like getting their energy back, they're like, oh, this is so nourishing and it feels so good.
Exactly. This has been so great. Before you go, I'd like to ask 2 last questions. One is quick. What do you most cherish about being a woman? And secondly, where can we find you online? And is there something that you'd like to highlight in terms of what you offer?
Yeah. What I cherish about being a woman is my inner knowing. Like, I think I really have come to value how clear, how like immediately clear I just know, like, yes, no, this is the path. This is not the path. It's taken me a long time to get to that place, but, that's something I really cherish. And yeah, I can be found on Instagram, Sena 2_Maria, Sena Maria, SENA, and my website, sena-maria.com. I am currently enrolling for my mineral balancing membership for women starting in January of 2024. So I'm not sure when this is coming out, but
Before that, next
Okay.
week, actually.
Awesome. Great. So the program, which is, I have 6 spots left and I may need to open a few more. We'll see. So there probably will be spots. But it's called Radiantly Nourished. And we do each woman gets 3 individual consultations with me with hair tests. So we do 3 hair tests throughout the whole year. And then there's a monthly call for the whole group to just stay engaged, to ask questions, to share, challenges or pain points, and just help us stay committed to the journey. So I'm really excited about that.
If someone is not like local to where you are, does that still work with the hair testing and everything?
Yep. I'll send you a kit and you just mail it into the lab, which is in the US, but there's no limitation for not being in the US.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Fabulous. Thank you so much, Sena, for being here. I loved this time together. I could have asked you a million other questions, but I'm going to respect your time and let you go and enjoy your Friday and your coming weekend. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.